Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. We're at 482 Northeast 18th here in Hillsboro, located up on the rooftop. Going down through the roof vent. I'm going to try and check the overall condition, serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Just dropped under the floor there. We are zeroed out. Right out of the gate here, we are going into quite a bit of standing water. Like we are just... Let's see if we popped out of that. There we go. I think we're shoving some junk along with us. Okay, water's running. I zeroed out the foot counter there at the base of the cleanout. This line here runs across the rear foundation wall from right to left, makes a turn, and then it goes right back out the front of the house, pretty much underneath that frontmost bathroom. Just have been unable to hunt down a clean-out access, unfortunately. That's why we're going through the rooftop here. Now this line could, at least from the looks of it thus far, could probably use a hydrojet. There's a lot of buildup, a lot of scale in it. You down there, Martin?
Yeah.
Would you mind doing a toilet flush? Thank you, sir. Oh yeah, for sure. That's just to help scoot this thing along. I broke up a lot of debris buildup at the start of the line. I'm trying to get the flush free. All right, into 6-inch concrete pipe there. And we have made it to the main. Looks like we tie into the manhole right out in front of the house there. Alrighty, we're going to start pulling back in here. Line's fully drained at this point, or by and large drained. Yeah, most of our gunk and buildup, interestingly enough, was on the interior of the house in the cast iron. Now the two pipe products, cast iron usually holds up a bit longer than the concrete. Concrete's actually fared quite nicely. There's very little aggregate rock exposed. And the way they ran this, they ran cast iron in this circumstance. It looks like right up to the street edge, which is a very rare occurrence. Normally, or to about the right-of-way area anyway. Typically speaking, this area of house, your cast iron would have stopped 5 feet outside the foundation, and it would have been concrete the rest of the way. That concrete is held up well, it's graded very nicely, and it's clean. There's little to no aggregate rock exposed right now. The downside of having concrete right out of the gate, though, is that the pipe joints, if you're comparing cast iron to concrete, there's no comparison between the two. Cast iron is generally very, very strong against roots, but concrete pipe is not, unfortunately. So as we're coming back to the cast iron here, you can see we've got some pretty thick, heavy scale buildup. There's some big flakes. The flow line has also got some a kind of a lump or a ridge in it, which is also likely scale buildup. Sometimes it can just be general buildup. which can happen. I don't know if there's a large household in here, but when you couple very low activity on a sewer line with a rougher pipe product like cast iron, it takes a conjunction of fixtures to convey sewage from point A to point B. And if not a lot of water is going to the line, debris can build up quite easily. So in here we're getting some pretty heavy wear and tear. What this looks like, first and foremost, is like the cast iron is channeling. And sometimes you can get kind of a mimic look of that. I'm going to push back out here to the start at about 34 feet where we start getting into the standing water. That looks a little bit more like channeled pipe than it does just a good old-fashioned belly. Channeling is where the metal gets eaten away slowly but surely. Alright, so where we're situated right now is just outside the front of the house. About 2 foot 4 inches deep. And I tried, the bark dust and dirt there is kind of loose. It's hard to spray it with paint. So you'll see some green paint there. It's a kind of a hard marking to read. When you hit it with that spray paint, the dirt kind of just blows around. Anyway, you look like you've got some channeling going on there, at the very least a belly. It's grabbing some debris as it comes to the line, no doubt about it. So at the very least you could jet this line. My concern is when you start to get this level of scale buildup in a line, it often means your cast iron's getting to a point where it's ready for update. We've got some ridges in the flow line my camera is going over the top of, which is often scale buildup layer. Once you go and take that off of there with the jetter, you often are left with some deteriorated pipe underneath it. Now when you jet lines like this with this much scale buildup, it is a process. Knocking the scale loose is not the hard part. It's blasting all of it out of the line. It can be very involved. So that's where you could start. My 2 cents on it is you've got a right there at the beginning of the line here, the beginning and as you're leaving the house, you've got a considerable amount of standing water here. It's very murky and thick with debris buildup, and it looks like the pipe bottom here is channeling as far as I can tell. I mean, you could spot repair this, you know, if you wanted to. You could do both ends where the channeled / belly is. My 2 cents on it, if you're going to be down there doing that level of work, especially with a line like this, it's by and large fairly exposed. My opinion, the cast iron's at a point where it's ready to be updated from the base of the vent stack all the way out to about 5 feet outside the foundation. From that point forward, the cast iron is in very fair condition for its age and has good flow. And the concrete pipe, again, very clean, nicely flowing sewer pipe out there. It's the interior stuff I'm most concerned about. It's just very, very heavy with scale. So you could start with the jetting process if you want to. I've seen it done enough times at this point, and sometimes you get a good result out of it. But that's not, unfortunately, going to fix the channel. It looks like channeled pipe to me. It might just be a belly, but anytime you get a belly, channeling is accelerated, and you will often end up with a channel in those areas. So I just don't want to see with pipe that just ends up rusty and scaly in the very, very near future. That's what happens with pipe that gets to a point where it just deteriorates. So everything beyond about 5 feet outside the foundation wall functions very nicely. Everything from that point back into the house there is struggling to drain out. And you've got parts and pieces in there that look reasonable, but overall that cast iron's in pretty rough shape in about the first half of the line.